Hi, it's Melody again. I am going to attempt to do a video here on the trouble with Islam. I'm going to try to keep it short, even though there's so much information that I could talk for hours. First of all, I have to say that this is America. People can believe whatever they want, and they have a right to believe whatever they want. I also have a First Amendment right to talk about my concerns with their beliefs. Okay, so anyway, this all started about 1400 years ago. There was a guy named Muhammad. He had a bad childhood. His parents died, got shuffled off to different relatives. He ended up being raised by a family member in a trading family. He married an older, wealthy widow, and I guess was doing all right for himself. Then one day, he had a vision, dream, who knows what, where he felt that an angel was attacking him and trying to force him to read. His first impulse was to commit suicide, and he tried this many times, but failed. Eventually, his family members were able to convince him that he was a prophet of God, or a prophet of Allah. He seemed to like this idea, so for about 13 years or so, he set up shop in his hometown, being a prophet. Well, basically, he was channeling the Westboro Baptist Church for 13 years. He was going around town telling everyone that he was the prophet, and if they didn't follow him, they were going to burn in hell forever. And that their entire families, all their ancestors, were all burning in hell. As you can imagine, he wasn't very popular. But he had wealthy family members who protected him. During this time, he was only able to get, off the top of my head, 100, 120 people to follow him, mostly friends and family, and some slaves of his who joined his religion, because if you join the religion, you get free. Well, then his family member died, he lost his protection, and Muhammad was kicked out in the dead of night. So he makes his way as a refugee to Medina. Medina was half Jewish. It stayed half Jewish for not much longer after he moved there. You see, he showed up broke, and he was used to not being broke. So he sent his men out to start raiding caravans. These caravans had done nothing to him. They just happened to have money, food, goods, things that he wanted. He moved from raiding caravans to raiding towns. Before long, he had kicked out 2 different Jewish tribes and totally decimated the third, selling the survivors into slavery. That's pretty much what he was. Muhammad was a genocidal warlord. Oh, I forgot to mention, he sold the women into slavery. The men, the 800 men and boys as young as 13, he had their heads cut off. That was just for the Jewish town. He was kind of upset that they would not take him as their prophet. He wanted to be everyone's prophet. That's part of his thing. He took pieces of different religions. He'd take some stories he heard from Christianity and Judaism and Zoroastrianism and paganism, and he added his own special touch to it and tried to make it part of his religion, with the idea that if someone heard a story or part of their religion within his, they would feel comfortable and join it. That's what the Catholic Church did for a long time. And what about every church does, every group, you move into a new area, you adopt some of the local customs. That's what Muhammad was trying to do. Well, anyway, Muhammad did some bad things, had 11 wives, who knows how many sex slaves, told his men that it was okay to rape women in front of their husbands because, hey, that which your right hand possesses. He had singers killed for singing songs that made fun of him. He had a poet killed for writing a poem that made fun of him. He had all the dogs in his village slaughtered. I think this was because he was mad at the dogs who were in the towns and caravans that his people raided, because they told their owners that he was attacking. But anyway, he said that his God could not hear anyone's prayer if a woman or a dog happened to be in front. So all the dogs had to go. Anyway, Muhammad's reign ended when a Jewish woman poisoned him. He had killed her entire family in a raid and made the mistake of eating food that she prepared for him. So after he died, his followers then went out and started conquering other lands. Now, the problem is Muhammad did not create a successor. He didn't tell his people what steps should be taken or who should be a successor to him in any way. So after he died, before too long, there was a disagreement on who should be his successor. And Muhammad had made it clear that if you leave Islam or try to change Islam, then your life is forfeit. So the moment there was two branches of Islam, they immediately went to war with each other. The two branches are, of course, Sunni and Shia. And from each of those, there has been more branches coming out. At one time, there was 100 different branches of Islam, but it's down to just a few now. So anyway, Muhammad's people went through Africa, one way or another killed about 100 million people, sold a lot of people into slavery, butchered a lot of people, castrated a lot of little boys for their eunuch trade, went through Asia and did horrible things to priceless landmarks and churches, and killed an unbelievable amount of people, attacked Europe, took over Spain, took over a bunch of islands. There are some people who say that the Dark Ages was really caused from Muslims stopping the trade across the Mediterranean Sea. There's a saying from that time, a Christian can't float a board on the Mediterranean Sea. Well, for hundreds of years, they'd been shipping grain across that sea. Then after Muslims showed up, well, then they were stuck moving inland with castles. They had to abandon all their growing land along the coast. They had to abandon fish. So you lost your fish, you lost your growing, all your food that was imported from Africa and other countries. Suddenly then, you're poor and you're just having the hardest time just trying to feed yourself and to avoid the slavers, because several million people, mostly young women, were kidnapped and taken by Muslim slavers back to Arabia. So next time you see some movie about the beautiful harem, remember that those were slave girls kidnapped from Europe. Okay, so basically that's kind of a history of Islam. They expanded through a much bigger area than any other group had, and then through one reason or another, they started collapsing down. Hey, turkeys. I guess they want to give you a serenade. So now we are today. The same text that Muhammad had written down is still the religious text of Islam. And that is the problem with Islam. Most Muslims are frankly like most Christians. Haven't you ever heard of cafeteria Catholics? These are the people that they go to church on Christmas and Easter, and then they donate money to Planned Parenthood. They believe what they want and abandon the rest. Well, and hardly ever read the Bible, if ever. Most Muslims are that way. They were born Muslim. Islam is a growing religion, but only because they have more children. More people leave Islam than join it every year. So anyway, so the problem with Islam is Islam. And the problem with it now is that people are protecting it. They are pretending that it is a religion of peace when it has never been a religion of peace. Individual Muslims can be peaceful. Some imams can be peaceful. Individual communities of Muslims can be peaceful. But Islam as created by Muhammad was never peaceful. And we do the peaceful Muslims no service by pretending that it is a peaceful religion. Because remember, Muhammad said that anyone who changes their religion must die. So all these peaceful Muslims, the good Muslims, the ones who care about everyone else, who don't want to commit jihad, they are at greater risk than we are. Oops. Yep, there goes the turkeys. So anyway, I've talked for 11 minutes. It's a lot longer than I planned on it. So anyway, what I'm trying to get at is, yes, we have to support people's right to freedom of religion. But no, we cannot accept any belief system that calls for the murder of anyone, especially the murder of someone who just leaves their religion, different religion, or a 12-year-old rape victim, or any of the called their